Hi, I'm Mari, and it's a little later in the day today, so I hope that the video light quality will be all right. The last couple of times I've been with you, I've talked about freedom. And today I want to talk about this is like a little cautionary tale, because I talked about freedom because I was feeling it and I was kind of exuberant with it, and I'm not a particularly exuberant type all the time, and so I wanted to really share that while I was feeling it. But what I want to talk about today is not getting stuck anywhere. Thomas Merton, who's one of my favorites, he said to live for spiritual experience is slavery. And so we don't want to be making too big of a deal out of our spiritual experiences. And we don't want to be saying necessarily where we are at. And I was speaking of freedom because I couldn't help it. And I do, of course, want to talk about things like freedom. Yet all of us, I'm sure, who've experienced freedom, then have those days where we don't feel particularly free. And what we find in A Course of Love is that the action moves. And if you've been with the Course for a while, you've seen this throughout the Course and in several different ways. One way is that what is required at the beginning is different than what's required later. So if we were to get stuck in the movement at the beginning, we wouldn't maybe feel the experiences that we're going to have later as the Course brings us to new places. So of course, I want to talk about what I'm feeling when I'm feeling it. And I encourage everyone to talk about these different states, but maybe not to call them stages in the way that we can, like I am in this state and we're in movement. One stage flows into the next. You don't want to kind of be thinking about where you're at all the time. I used to do that a lot in the beginning days of my journey. But you are free. So even if you're not feeling particularly free on any particular day, because you're free, it's a new ballgame. I usually talk about the state that brings me the most as the state of allowance. And it may have been allowance that brought me my realization of freedom. But you don't want to get stuck in allowance or freedom. You're not being free. You're not being allowance. What we're doing is becoming being itself. And we need to stay fluid. You could say acceptance flows into allowance, and allowance flows into freedom, and freedom flows into power, and power flows into Christ consciousness. But it's all the same, and it's fluid, and one is not born of the other. So we're going to leave stages behind now, because you know what? Stages are thought-oriented. And what we're doing is moving from thought orientation to a new orientation, which, again, we won't label. Jesus talks about the new because it's not so much of a label, and it's new all the time. So since I've talked about freedom twice, I just wanted to add this, that like a to ask you to see each movement as part of something bigger, and each feeling as part of the movement, because you are becoming being. Thanks for being with me.